Hello again. So this is going to be a quick video to show you the difference between, sorry guys, there's more of the wrestlers out in the hallway and they are making a lot of ruckus along the walls. So this one is just to look at the different types of graphs that you can have. When we're looking at a parabola, I think I told you before, our y equals x squared is kind of our normal graph of this one. If I zoom in, you guys can see it's just a standard parabola. We should see that all the time. What I wanted you to notice is that if instead I make another graph, I can use a negative x squared, and I get the exact same parabola, but, oops, let me get out of the graph. That same parabola goes ahead and shows down, kind of flipped or inverted, if you will. So looking at that same space again, I can go ahead and add in another graph on here. And this one I can take my x squared, and I want to make the coefficient in front of it smaller. So I'm going to use a 1/2 x squared. And when I do that, you can see that this is my orange equation here. And suddenly now you can see it's slightly wider, if you will, than my first x squared. Well, I can kind of play with that and continue again down that same pathway. And I did 1/2 there, so this time I'm going to do 1/10. Oops. And do my 1/10 x squared. And you can see when this one pops up, it becomes even wider. So that graph is opening up as the coefficient gets closer to 0, as it gets smaller. Now going that other direction, I can turn around and predict out that if instead of a 1/2, I did a y equals 2x squared, then if you notice, my parabola got tighter. It got in closer to that x-axis, or excuse me, y-axis. So you notice that this one is the blue, that's the y equals x squared. The black is the 2x squared. And then again, I can run that even out further, and I can do a y equals 10x squared. And you'll see it gets even tighter in on that piece. Now I know all of you guys are like me and you want to know two things, which is how tight do I have to make it until it almost touches the y-axis. So let's try and make this one 1,000 x squared. And you can see it's right there along the axis, but here's the deal. When we zoom way in, it's still a parabola. It's right there. We can see it. It's still right there. I can go back and modify this and make it 1,000 or 1,000,000. And even when I do that, I can zoom in again. Even when I zoom way in, you can see it's still a parabola. Okay, if you can tell, I like playing with Desmos. So that kind of gives you the idea, though. I'll go ahead and knock this one out of there, and then we'll zoom this sucker out to a reasonable size. And you guys should be able to see and be able to predict which graph matches which equation just based on looking at the coefficients.